The SpaceX Starship just blew up. I'm going to assume most of us already knew that, and now that the shock of watching a giant rocket go up in an even more gigantic fireball has worn off, we need to start talking about what actually happened here. Because what makes this failure unique is that it really had nothing to do with the Starship itself. The explosion could have been the result of an accident, it could have just been straight up bad luck, but it also could be related to something even more troubling. It's June 18th and our Starship is out for a round of midnight testing at a location known as the Massey's test site. It's down the road from Starbase in the opposite direction of the launch pad. Massey's is this weird toe-shaped piece of land that's mostly surrounded by water, yet still connected to the land. It's kind of like an island, but not. Anyway, at this point, the ship has been down there for a couple of days. On June 17th, SpaceX posted a video of a single-engine static fire test with one of the Center 3 Raptor engines meant to simulate an in-space deorbit burn, and it was expected that the next day, Starship would fire up all 6 engines to simulate its orbital insertion burn. Then, with that test finished, the rocket would be certified for liftoff as early as June 29th. It was in preparation for the 6-engine static fire test that our incident occurred. The ship itself was essentially going through a warm-up phase. The liquid oxygen tank had been filled, the liquid methane tank had about 10% of its full load, just enough for the engine test, and SpaceX technicians were in the process of activating the Starship's nose flaps when, all of a sudden, boom. Now, the most important thing to note here is that no one got hurt. Before propellant loading even began, people would have been cleared back to Starbase Mission Control up here on Highway 4. The ship definitely did get hurt very badly, though. And you have to go through this all frame by frame just to see the events unfold, because this all happened in only 2 seconds. But our first sign of trouble comes when a burst of white gas starts to break through the cargo bay of the Starship. This is coming through the heat shield of the rocket right around the middle of the payload section. That's joined almost immediately by a smaller burst of gas coming out through the nose cone of the Starship. This one is also white at first, but there's definitely black smoke coming out through the nose section as well. Now that first gas explosion is rapidly expanding. It's blown a giant hole in the body, there's gas coming out from between heat shield tiles, and a horizontal seam is starting to open up just above the methane tank. Just a couple frames later, and the burst has already torn the entire cargo bay of the Starship apart. This is welded stainless steel that's just being ripped like paper, so we know that there was an incredible amount of pressure built up inside there just being released. You can tell that this force has broken through the methane tank as well, because there is gas starting to escape from the bottom of the tank further down the rocket, which means that we are 1 instant away from splitting open the top of the liquid oxygen, and that is what's really going to set this off. 1 frame later, the methane and oxygen combo ignites. It's not clear where the source of that ignition would have come from, but we know that there is high voltage wiring running up and down the rocket that feeds the electric motors that power the wing flaps. There are also lithium-ion battery packs inside the rocket. Those will combust when damaged. But what we see for sure is that the fire starts at the bottom of the gas cloud, right in between the methane and oxygen tanks, and it quickly rises up from there. Now, we do have 2 small fuel tanks up in the nose of the rocket, header tanks. It's not clear if those had propellant in them at this time, but it kind of looks like they did, because here seems to be a secondary explosion higher up on the rocket. It launches this one big piece of debris out to the left at a 45-degree angle, and there's a fireball right in the place where the tip of the nose used to be. So, mostly what we are looking at is a lot of methane gas catching fire and being propelled by a massive amount of oxygen. And remember, that's only 10% of the methane that Starship carries when it's getting launched into space, which itself is only about 1/3 the amount of fuel carried by the Super Heavy booster. So as intense as this explosion was, that's only a very tiny glimpse at what we'd see if a fully stacked Starship rocket were to ever have a catastrophic failure like this on the launch pad. But hopefully, we never find out. Okay, super cool fiery explosions.